Okay, good morning.
Good
This
morning.
is a public deliberation of the Baltimore County Board of Appeals. Today is October 23rd, 2025. This is matter number 24249XA in the matter of Owings Reisterstown Developers LLC at 10550 Reisterstown Road. This is a deliberation from a hearing that the board held on August 26th and 27th of 2025. And this was in consideration of a appeal of a petition for special exemption pursuant to BCZR section 5007 to allow fuel service station convenience store under BCZR section 405 2B1 and 405 4E1 and for variance relief from BCZR 405 to allow for some signage on the property. And this is broadly about a fuel service station convenience store, specifically a Wawa, I understand. And I am chairing this hearing today. My name is Michael Stelmack. I am joined by my colleagues on the board, Deborah Dopkin and Joseph Evans. Good morning. Good morning to all the folks at home. And I think, as I sketched out broadly, there's two matters here, a special exemption and some variances. And I think we'll start with the first, and I will take the privilege of calling on someone else to go first. So, Miss Dopkin, you like calling on me first, so you get called this time.
As to the special exception, the special exception for this site is an interesting application. The site, first of all, let me say, I know the site, I know the area. I happen to think it is a site that begs for redevelopment. And would love to see it improved. I'm going to start with the opposition and note that some of the parties in this case are the same parties as the Attar case. And I think that they have not overcome the presumption for a special exception use. They haven't put on any testimony or witnesses to rebut the testimony that was presented. So I don't think the opposition's case was persuasive. As to the case in chief, on the special exception, there were no one appeared from the community other than the one competing operator. So it does not seem to have met with a lot of community concern. I still have concerns because of the comments from the Department of Planning that were not addressed, not just to my satisfaction. They were not addressed in any way regarding demonstrating that there will be no adverse impacts imposed on the immediate residential properties. And that is my primary consideration in looking at whether the petitioner in this case has met its burden. That's sort of where I am. And I looked at this use and the adjoining storage facility use. And one of my problems is, again, there was an absolute absence of evidence regarding the operation of this fuel service station and convenience store. There was no
I
testimony.
just lost audio.
That's a you problem, Joe. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Well, I don't know what to do about that. Have you got us back yet? I'm going to say that's a no.
I'm calling you on your cell phone so you can hear me.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
I sure can.
Okay.
So
Hopefully,
what
Joe.
I'm saying
Hopefully,
is
Joe
there
will get
was,
his audio back soon.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. Okay.
and Mike, I'm gonna add you to the call
Oh, that.
if I can figure out how. What's your number?
I'm not going to put that on this because it's going to be on
No,
YouTube.
I have it too. Wait a minute. I have it. Just give me a second to find it.
Hi, can I ask that we pause the recording while we get Joe situated for just a moment, please?
All right, we're going to
Sure,
pause
and
it.
I'm gonna hang up so you can do that.
Thank you.
On. We're back.
My second point was that there was similarly no testimony regarding operational matters, the hours. If the store is open and the whole time the pumps are open. So I heard no testimony about that. Though most of these Wawas that I'm familiar with are 24/7. And I was comparing a typical Wawa to the storage facility that adjoins it. A storage facility is sort of a passive use. It's quiet, it's dark. They generally do lock their gates at night, but even so, it's all internal. So it has a different effect on any residences it might back up to. We did not see a landscape plan. There were no perspectives on whether it would be visible from the residences. All of those things could have been presented, and the record is sort of silent on them. The other thing I note is that the canopy slants from Reisterstown Road back upward. So I don't know if there's going to be light leaking from the canopy that would affect the residences. I just don't know. It may have no impact. One would hope it would have no impact, as it was a concern raised in the planning comments. So that's my big gray area on this. And all of this could have been very easily ascertained, presented as part of the design and engineering. So to the extent that there was evidence presented by petitioner, it was all very positive. It is the absence of anything that relates to the impact on the adjoining residences that leaves me with a question mark. If there is an impact, if there is no impact, what that impact might be, what the noise effect might be. They certainly agreed to move the dumpster and limit the hours. But sometime last week, there was a not very favorable article. I don't know if it was in the Banner or the Sun papers about neighborhood objection to another Wawa because of the late night noise and attraction to as a sort of a hangout. I don't know where that was. I think it was over in East Baltimore County somewhere. But I don't want that happening here, and I don't know if it will or if it won't, because there was no testimony. So I'm very on the fence. The
But there-
neighbors didn't show up. The neighbors didn't raise these concerns. The protestants said it would have an impact, but put on no testimony of any sort as to that. So I'm on the fence.
Well, one of the protestants testified that there were loiterers, I guess, sort of miscreants, I don't know, hanging around the
Other
Exxon
gas
station.
stations,
Pardon?
not at this site, but at
No, not at the
other-
site, but by adjacent to the site. So, I mean, your concern about whether it's going to be some sort of an attractive nuisance of some form or another. I mean,
wouldn't
there
go
is
to-
there is some reason to credit that. It's not that's not a concern that's just conjured up out of nowhere. I mean, there's already some indication of that
and
possibility.
it's something that easily could have been addressed at the hearing.
Mhm. So can we, if we were to grant the special exception, because I do agree that this is a site that, in your words, which I agree 100% with, begs for redevelopment. Are there limitations that we can put in the grant that would address those concerns, do you think?
Well, to me,
Hmm.
it would be contrary to their operating trademark, whatever it is that was in, there's, I don't know, we're not going to have them turn out the lights at 10 o'clock.
Right, we can ask them to, I mean, 7-Eleven, for example, closes at 11, mostly.
I don't know if that's true anymore.
I don't know if that is true or not. I guess it depends where. I didn't think that these places were open 24 hours.
I don't know. That's the
This site
problem.
in Owings Mills, I don't know why it would be open 24 hours, frankly. Pretty dead at that, 3 o'clock in the morning there. There's nothing happening.
It's on a major road with a lot of, I don't know. Oh, the ones I'm familiar with are open 24 hours.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's almost certainly the case here, as
Oh.
is true of. I mean, I'm not reading facts in the record. That's my experience, and it's probably true of the other gas stations that are on the street as well.
If they close the convenience store at 11,
I don't think the one near me does.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And I don't want to tell them how to run their business, and I don't want the county to have to enforce it
Right.
to make sure they close at 11. It doesn't make sense. So as I said, I'm on the fence on this. If you can find a way to skin this cat, I'd be anxious to hear it.
Well, I'm, as you may well understand, or may well have recognized, I have a tilt towards communities, in my outlook towards these things. I, I didn't, but on the other hand, this is a really, ugly
Derelict.
derelict site, that needs to be redeveloped. And, I think it's an expensive site to redevelop, actually. The topography is quite problematic. So it's gonna have to be, I think it's gonna have to be deep pockets that does it, I think. So, I lean in the absence of measurable community opposition. I mean, there was a petition, it had, I think, 15 or 20 signatures. I've gone through petitions myself. 15 or 20 signatures on a petition that's not real, that doesn't move me much, frankly. It's not insignificant, it's not irrelevant, but it's not a lot. So I would be in favor of granting the special exception, though I'm wondering if there's a way we can limit the light pollution.
Not just light.
Noise.
Philosophically, we don't usually get into philosophical discussions
Mhm.
because the neighbors don't show up. Are we not obliged to look at all the factors?
Well, we absolutely are. And, yeah, I mean, we absolutely are. And, I
just, like I said,
I
just don't know.
right. I so, I sort of feel like in matters of this sort that honestly, that your view is informed by so much experience, that I don't have, that, I'm, I'm not I, I sort of, well, I'm trying, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not confident enough of the situation to say, okay, let's go. I don't know. I guess I'm gonna straddle the fence like you do then, and maybe turn it over to Michael, huh?
Okay. I mean, as a generally, I'm also not informed by as much experience as Ms. Dobkin, but my
Doesn't matter.
thoughts coming in today are, I think that the petitioners have shown that they meet the general standards for the special exemption in under 405(4). I think, there was one issue that was made by the protestants that bears being discussed, which is just the question of I'm sorry, 452. This sort of and/or issue of was the site unimproved or improved by a building or buildings
Oh, right,
vacant
right,
prior to
right.
the application.
Right, right.
I mean, my view as I read that to be and/or.
That has to be and/or. It would be utterly irrational if it was not and/or, yes. You can, let it can be
Agreed.
unimproved for a while and vacant for a while, and you can tack them together, and that has to be the logic there. Otherwise, it's
Agree.
craziness. Right, right.
And I mean, that being the case, I mean, I think it meets the conditions for approval. And I mean, I take it, I understand what you're saying. There are, as a matter of general welfare, we're allowed to look into these other issues of traffic, crime, safety generally.
Well, what about the abandoned service station thing?
I mean, I was persuaded as a general matter that the petitioners did a good job of trying to find any abandoned service stations within, I think it's a mile of the site.
Yeah. Well,
I think that
they found this one that's it's being converted into something else. And they said in their memo that means it's not abandoned within the meaning of that provision. But I couldn't find that. I mean, it makes sense to me. The logic is perfect. But I actually couldn't find that provision in the BCZR that says redevelopment is not abandonment. I couldn't find that.
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent it kind of cuts both ways. Is like, if it's sitting fallow with an abandoned like service station on it, that seems to indicate that there is no market for more service stations, I guess, in a sense. But if it's been redeveloped into something that's not a service station, that also kind of says that there's no market for another service station. But also, I don't know that I'm going to sit in judgment of the free market. I think if people want to build a service station in a particular spot, they're the ones who know whether or not there's a demand for that. But
Yeah, I'm not concerned about need per se. I mean, I think there's actually some economic data that says gas stations do better when they're clustered. They all do better when they're clustered.
There are a lot of automotive uses in this area, there's a Precision Tune and a Jiffy Lube
Right,
on the other side of Tollgate Road, on this side of Reisterstown Road.
right.
Not to mention the station adjoining this on Reisterstown Road.
The Exxon station, right. And I'm not unsympathetic to the protestants' views that this would negatively impact their business. I suspect it might. It's what happens whenever, when Home Depot goes into an area, all the local hardware stores go broke, and same with, big supermarkets and Walmart and all that kind of stuff. That's the world we live in. It's sad, but it's not something we
What the
can
market says.
we can't take it into account for these purposes. So
well, I mean, I
um,
think the goal of that particular policy is just to make sure there's not a bunch of
right.
abandoned service stations that we are
Exactly,
going to
right.
develop on a different site.
Right, right. But it does say that if there is one, then you do have to consider need. And what,
Doesn't say that.
it doesn't say that?
Need is not a requirement.
I'm saying but if there's an abandoned service station, it becomes a requirement, does it not?
It becomes a prohibition,
It becomes a prohibition. Yes, you're right.
but
Exactly.
not a requirement.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's a prohibition. So, I guess I'm happy to construe the provisions stand for the proposition that converting a service station is not an abandoned service station. That's really a completely different animal. I just didn't see in the code. I didn't, and maybe I just missed it. But I didn't see it in 405.7, and I looked at it a number of times, but I could, I can tell you some stories in my professional career that indicate I'm sometimes miss things.
There is a provision 405.8 for the conversion of abandoned
Right, I saw that. I
to
saw
other
that.
uses.
Right. 405.8 I saw, and that simply says that if it's converted, you don't have to you don't have to remove the tanks and do all this other stuff.
But then it's not abandoned.
Well,
The use changes from a fuel service station that's abandoned to something else.
right, that's why it was because of 405.8 that I said I'm sort of willing to construe the BCCR as standing for the proposition that converting a gas station is not the same as abandoning a gas station. I mean, it happens in my area of the county all the time. I mean, these gas stations disappear and there's a bank. Gas stations disappear and there's a Starbucks. I mean, and I can't believe that would be viewed as an abandoned service station. So, anyway, but I didn't see it by its terms. Petitioner's memo says, under the zoning regulations, a use is not considered abandoned, in quotes, if it is terminated by a new use through redevelopment, section 405.7. That I didn't see. But as I say, I could have missed it, I suppose. But I am willing to construe conversion as non-abandonment. I'm comfortable with that. That makes sense to me. So I'm not throwing that up. That's an objection. But. So Michael, what's your bottom line then?
I mean, I think, I take Ms. Dobkins' general observations well, that were things that could have been presented that weren't. And I think that it's not necessarily up to the protestants to bring those things out for us. But I don't know that it's for us to bring them up sua sponte. I mean, to the extent that there are concerns that were raised during the testimony of the protestants' witnesses, I mean, I think that I would consider them to be sort of generalized concerns that are true of any development, and I mean, speculative. I think, is it going to cause miscreants to move from one gas station to another to hang out, or hang out at different times? Is it an attractive nuisance? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
I think that the petitioners did a good job when it comes to their mitigation of traffic concerns in that particular spot, because I think, there's traffic concerns anywhere in spots like that. And I think they did a good job of designing the the flow of traffic in and out to mitigate that. So as a general, I mean, I think that, I mean, as a bottom line matter, I would grant the special exemption. I think that a special exception. I think they've done what they need to do to show that they're entitled to it. Now, I would also condition the grant on the two things that we discussed, which was the where the dumpster lies and the trash removal not being between 8 a.m. I'm sorry, not before 8 a.m. and not later than 7 p.m. I think they agreed to that during the hearing. I don't remember reading that in any of the or in the memo, but that was my notes from the hearing. So
Mhm.
I think that the petitioner's memo included that as part of
oh, okay.
their, um, are you satisfied that the comments from the Office of Planning have been addressed? Which were in the record all along. I think it was petitioner's exhibit 18. They introduced it.
Let me go through it again real quick, or if you have it pulled up, you can.
Is it mentioned in their memo?
Not that I recall.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're referring to is on page 2. It says the Department of Planning has no objection to the approval of the special exception condition that all above applicable requirements are met, and it can be demonstrated to the ALJ that there will be no adverse impacts imposed on the immediate residential properties. That's
Yeah, well, that's nothing.
And
That's-
again, at the bottom of that page, lists 5 or substantive conditions.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
At the bottom of that page of the comment, there are conditions listed by the Department of Planning.
Okay.
And I don't have that in front of me. What?
Sorry. Okay. I think what she's saying is the department has no objections granting the relief conditioned upon the following. 1, comply with all of the signage regulations outlined in section 450. That the ALJ make a finding based on BCZR section 4053 that the proposal meets all applicable standards and regulations outlined in Baltimore County Regulations section 4054. That the petitioner demonstrates the satisfaction of the ALJ that there will be no adverse impacts imposed on the immediate residential properties. The plan meets all additional conditions as required. That the plan meets all additional conditions as required by the ALJ.
Well, that's pretty general. Yeah, that's pretty general. Well, what about a requirement that the petitioner submit a a landscaping plan
already required.
Okay, that shields light.
There's a lighting plan required as well. They just didn't present it at this stage.
Mhm. I'm not so concerned about noise. I don't think noise is gonna really, I don't see that as a big problem, but light, yes.
Look, I think the delivery trucks backing up.
Oh, I'm talking
create-
about at night. I'm talking about at night. That's what in my mind, I was thinking of.
Or early in the morning, we just don't know. There's I mean, I don't know how you address that. I
Right,
think the light is a concern. I think potential noise is a concern. I think landscape buffers, because of the grade differential, are a concern.
yeah. Well, I
And-
was, the noise the biggest noise issue, I think is the dumpster stuff, and we have taken care of that. When I was talking about noise, I was thinking noise, 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. And that I don't see a lot of that going on. I mean, I just through my own experience, walking around in the world, I don't see a lot of that happening. Because I'm usually inside at 9 o'clock, but
we're senior citizens.
I'm out after 9. I have to tell you, I do night things. But I haven't seen a lot of, a lot of commercial activity of that sort, trucks delivering supplies to businesses, after 9 o'clock. I don't really see that much. Well, I guess I as long as we can impose conditions that my concern is light pollution, frankly. That's my biggest concern for the neighborhood. Beyond that, I
Certainly add a condition that the lighting plan protect with either downward lighting shields or modifications to the canopy that limit or prevent light pollution affecting the neighborhood.
right,
And I think the Department of Planning is likely to be I'm not sure who reviews the lighting plan and the landscape plan,
mhm,
but it's certainly something we can impose.
right. Well, with those kinds of conditions, I'm okay with this. I mean, I might view it differently if there had been a large community outcry. That there are situations where there have been large community outcries with these kinds of gas station convenience stores, here there seemed sort of a yawn, yes. And it is because when you drive down the road and look at the road, Reisterstown Road at that point, I mean, it's just so intensely commercial that,
It's
There are
certainly the
not a lot
people,
of single-family residential communities that abut those commercial uses.
right, they're a bit invisible from the road.
I mean, on the north side of Tollgate Road, the slope is more severe, and there's a very old storage facility of those low individual storage buildings, as I recall. So it's very non-intrusive, and it's a very severe slope.
Mhm.
It's a little different situation. And the Tollgate community is a very old, very established modest, single-family residential community.
I'm not familiar with it, but
And the high school is located along one of the roads that serves the community.
Mhm.
Um,
that's Pikesville High School.
no, I
Oh,
think it's Owings Mills.
Owings Mills, yeah.
So, um, it's worth protecting.
Yeah.
Affordable housing is a rare commodity in Baltimore County. And this is a community of affordable single-family houses, or at least traditionally it has been. So, I don't know. Like I said,
Well, I'll go however Deborah goes.
no, 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 no.
I think we have a consensus for granting the special exception with conditions. I agree with the light condition. Is that where we are? Not to move us along, but I'm moving us along a little here. Try.
Oh, I think that's probably fair.
Okay, if I don't agree, I'll write either a concurring or dissenting piece.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a consensus.
That is a consensus. Okay, thank you. Now we have to move to part two,
Oh, yes, the variances, yeah.
which are the variances. And I think the variances are harder because of the standard of uniqueness, but I still have trouble with the uniqueness standard. So Ms. Topkin, will you go first on this one as well?
The uniqueness standard for this property is in large part the significant grade differential from the road. And that is a legitimate unique quality to justify the sign variances everywhere but on the rear of the building.
I agree with that. And
Wait,
there-
I wasn't done.
Oh, Mr. Evans, you must wait.
You must wait. There was
Oh, okay.
testimony without, again, anything to back it up, that the signs on the rear of the building are not visible from any street and therefore by definition are not signs, which is in fact what the zoning regulations say. If that is true, then it's a moot issue. If that is not true, those signs, other than directional signs, serve absolutely no purpose.
absolutely no what?
Purpose.
Purpose, okay.
They're not lighted. They should never be lighted. So my view is the petition as to the signs on the rear, and I have to pull up the site plan to identify them by number. I dismiss it as moot. And if you grant it, I would limit it to never be illuminated.
In the rear.
And they said they weren't. But I've looked at a lot of Wawas recently. Not all Wawas have a rear access. I mean, my husband thought I was going like this every time we drive by Wawa. I'm not even sure, that's their current model. Okay. But I don't see where that signage serves any commercial purpose.
I will say, so this is a weird anecdotal story, but I actually was unaware that you could get in from the rear entrance of the Wawa nearest me until before this hearing, but until recently, it is way more convenient to get in the rear side of that Wawa. So I do it all the time now when I go there.
I don't object to a rear entrance. I just,
No, but there was no signage that, at least I don't recall, signage that says,
I said directional signs, you know, you want to give them a directional sign that shows where the, you know, fine, but I just think asking for variances for those signs, if they're not signs, is sort of against their own interest. And if they are signs, then they need to be non-illuminated, which their testimony indicated they would be, but I'd certainly condition it, if we don't dismiss it as moot, on their never being illuminated. I happen to think that this case was made without ample consideration for the adjoining residential properties, either as to the special exception or the sign variances. And it troubles me that it was not addressed below and was not addressed at the hearing before us, when it was all could easily have been put into evidence. So I'm off my soapbox. Your turn.
Well, I mean, I agree with the rear sign. Well, I agree with everything. I mean, it is the topography makes it unique. There is a hardship if the signs have to be, if there's no variance. I mean, it's a commercial hardship that is inherent in the situation, so. I agree with what Ms. Dodkins says.
okay. I think so do I. I think they admitted they were taking a sort of belt and suspenders approach when it came to the some of the sign variances, just out of abundance of caution. So I think that we can write it that way. So okay, I think we have come to a conclusion here, unless anyone has anything else. Thank you.
These cases are hard. I have to say, these cases are difficult.
What made it difficult for me is that it forced me to examine what our role is where there is no community opposition. And the case was silent as to significant issues affecting the residential community.
Right, I mean, obviously there was concern from the protestants about the economic impact on their business. Very sympathetic to that, very sympathetic to that. Beyond that, the testimony about traffic congestion was anecdotal at best, not entirely coherent to me. And then there was nothing about, there was nothing from the residents in the back there about any concerns about the project. So it was not, just wasn't there.
As to the protestants case, I want to address it briefly. Sorry, Mr. Stelmack.
No, please.
Mr. McCann made much about the removal of the AS district.
Oh, yes.
That did not persuade me, because the use is permitted under 405 under these conditions. And I just think that what was, and what is, and we have to deal with what is at the moment. He also argued that there needs to be a showing of need,
Right.
which I do not think the code requires. And to the extent that there were concerns about competition, that has been ruled as not a valid basis for denying an otherwise appropriate special exception. So none of that overcomes the presumption of correctness here with the showings that have been made. And again, had there been more testimony about the impact on the residential neighborhood compared to other uses or other 24/7 facilities, I may have been more sympathetic to their rebutting the presumptions that come with this use. But we had no testimony to that effect and no studies to show negative impacts. The record was just silent on both sides. And I'm not unsympathetic, but having been involved in the Attar case, these parties kind of knew what the score was and it didn't. So,
I also agree that need is not, the question of abandoned service stations exists separate and apart. The need associated with that exists separately and apart from the otherwise special exception standards, and it's not applicable here. So I agree that there was no need to show need by the petitioner.
thank you.
And it's also, I must say, it's inherent in their request for their special exception that they believe that they can make a commercial success. If they can make a commercial success, that's almost the definition of need, I suppose. Of course, it can also put other people out of business, anyway, anyway, I don't think it wasn't necessary to make such a showing. So,
I agree with you both.
okay. All right, well, I guess we
All right.
have consensus then, huh?
Thank you, my learned colleagues. Thank you to council for the parties. Thank you to the staff, and I will see you again soon. Have a lovely day.
So is our
Oh.
conclusion to grant the special exception with conditions
Yes.
and to grant the variances with conditions rather than finding the variances on the rear of the property moot as not being signage? Which way are we going? Somebody's got to write this, so it would be helpful to know. Granting or dismissing?
Well, I think we do it in the alternative, right? Can we do it that way?
Okay with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
All right. We're going off the record.
Right, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.